A transgender woman testifies before the BC Human Rights Tribunal over Brazilian waxes. I'm Marco Perri. Welcome to the Perri platform. Insanity has reached new levels here in Canada, and that's saying something. According to the CBC, a man who identifies as a woman is testifying before the BC Human Rights Tribunal over what? Brazilian waxes. Amazing. He was refused these waxes at more than a dozen beauty salons, supposedly because of being transgender. Well, I think another possibility here is that the people who work at these salons just don't want to be waxing his male genitalia. That's what a Brazilian wax is. The transgender person in question goes by the name Jessica Yaniv. Well, Jessica, I hate to break it to you, but getting your junk waxed, it's not a human right. I'm shocked I even have to utter these words. If the women at the salons don't feel comfortable making contact with your private parts, well, that is their right to refuse you. It is actually quite the reverse situation that Jessica has proposed here. Jessica is actively trying to violate the employee's personal rights. Supposedly, he would love to compel these women and force them to wax his genitalia against their wishes. Asinine. The article then goes on to state that the Human Rights Tribunal has been conducting an investigation for the past several months. The tribunal has been hearing from the waxing salons and independent estheticians that Jessica is accused of violating his human rights. Jessica has a quote here. "None of the providers had any issues with anything until I mentioned I was transgender." Oh wow, you think? If you masquerade as a woman, the salon will assume you are a woman. They will assume that they will be working with a certain set of genitals. Typically, women are the ones who work at these salons. Their typical clientele is women. Not always, but that's usually the case. When you flip the script and say all of a sudden, hey, I actually have male private parts even though I claim to be a woman, obviously that's going to change the dynamic. This is not a shocking revelation. Jessica claims that many estheticians advertise themselves as offering services to both male and female customers. This is the one point I can agree with if it's true. If you advertise that you're going to do these things for males and females, you better honor it. But when the estheticians were questioned, they had very valid reasons for rejecting the service. Many of them claim to not even offer services to men in the first place, and that Jessica was misrepresenting the facts. Some of the people said they did not have the proper training to work on male private parts. If your typical clients are women, that doesn't make sense. What does Jessica want to do with these people? Let's say he has his way and forces the employees to perform the service. If they lack the training, as they say they do, it's possible a mistake or an accident can occur. Now what happens? The company is back to getting sued, but this time for damaging whatever he has down there. It's a lose-lose situation. The next reason that some of the workers gave is they say they are not comfortable with the request. This is also valid. Jessica's supposed right to get a waxing does not trump the true freedom of choice that the employees have. You cannot compel someone to do something they are not comfortable with, and that's the bottom line here. Yet another reason given is that for some employees, it violates their religion. Some of the salons he's lumped together, as I mentioned before, don't even advertise male services. Is Jessica really trying to say that the path of justice here is to take someone and force them against their will to perform a service on you? If someone tells you that they don't want to do something, you respect that and move on. It's called consent, and Jessica does not earn that in the least. The craziest part of all of this to me is the subject matter. She's squabbling over a Brazilian waxing. Jessica is seeking financial remedies of $25,000 from at least one salon and $7,500 from an independent esthetician. Let me get this right. For trying to compel people to wax your private parts against their will and then barely refusing, you want to be paid over $30,000. Okay, good luck with that. I want to make clear before we move on, I respect people's rights to identity and whatever they want to identify themselves as. Ultimately, I want all citizens to have freedom of thought and expression, and that does transfer over to, as I said, everyone, including trans people. I also think that everyone should be free from undue violence and that sort of stuff. The question that nobody wants to ask, though, is to what extent do other people have to buy into your subjective worldviews? They've made the claim that gender is subjective, but they want to cement their picks as if it's objective. It can't go both ways. You can be free to identify as whatever you want. I will respect that. But when you try to force people to think as you do, to see the world as you do, that's where a line is being crossed. If you are a biological male, you cannot realistically compel someone to treat you as they would treat a biological woman. Just calling yourself a woman does not make it so. You can see that point very clearly from this situation. The employees perform Brazilian waxing on women. If you are a male who identifies himself as a woman, you cannot expect them to treat you as a biological woman because you are not. The genitals play a big part in this. If you really want to get waxed, you can find someone who's willing to comply given your unique set of circumstances. It's a free market. A solution here is that tolerance is a two-way street. You should be free to do your thing, but other people should also be free to do theirs. Waxing is not a human right. People have the right to choose who they perform services for, and claiming to be female, as I said before, does not make you one. If you want to believe it, that's your prerogative though. It's not the rest of the world's duty to adopt your ideals. If you want to be logical about this, it seems like there's another path that presents a better way to describe yourself. Let's say you are a young boy who likes to wear dresses and put on a wig. What does that make you? Trans? Well, I don't think so. I think it makes you a young boy who likes wigs and likes to wear dresses. You can't simply identify something that is societally attached to femininity and then think you are a woman because you like those things. It's a massive jump logically, and you can't do it. It just means you are a male who likes feminine things, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to then make the conclusion that because you like X, Y, and Z, women like X, Y, and Z, therefore I am a woman, it's not logically sound, and it holds no water. That's not always the case, obviously. There are a bunch of reasons why someone may come to believe that they are trans, but what I just described is a confusion that occurs quite often. Now, the Human Rights Tribunal says that it will come to a decision on the case within 3 months. They already spent months doing their hearings, and they need 3 more months to make a decision. Well, sounds like a big waste of tax dollars to me. This case is fairly clear-cut. Jessica is wasting resources on a frivolous claim, bogging down a department that seemingly could be investigating more pressing issues. Just to give you some context on Jessica, he makes the claim that he can become pregnant. He has proposed nude swimming lessons for young girls, and he has taken an interest in young females and helping them with tampons. If you look into Jessica's history, it is very disturbing. I personally think this is a deranged individual given all of his antics. It appears likely to me that a mental illness is at play. This is one of the dangers of our current political climate. Claiming to be trans is held as an absolute proposition that cannot be met with criticism. Once you have something to say, you are immediately deemed to be transphobic, and that is not always the case. Could this be enabling some people with mental problems to not be diagnosed and given the help they need? I think it's a possibility. We don't know because we don't ask. I have to applaud the LGBT community though. From what I've seen and heard, there has been mass condemnation for Jessica from all sides of the aisle. Jessica is not the representative of all trans people, but she does illustrate how things can go wrong and where our system is flawed. Overall, this is a disturbing situation, and the disregard for logic and honest question in today's environment has contributed to it. As I've said, I respect and will defend people's rights to think and identify as whatever they please. To what extent do we have to buy into other people's subjective worldviews though? That's the real question here. Why can't we just leave it as those people believe what they want? I will believe what I choose, not what I'm fed. I will respect these people, but it's a two-way street. What about everyone else's freedom of thought and expression? Does that not matter anymore? When people complain about political correctness, this is exactly what they're talking about. It has become a tool to subjugate the masses to arbitrary means of acceptance and thinking. What about an honest conversation about the flaws of our system? What about an honest conversation about being trans and what it really means? We don't really have those, and as a result, we're seeing these abstractions and people trying to abuse the system, as Jessica is. It's not healthy, and we need to break the way we've been trained to think and discuss these things. At the end of the day, I think Jessica needs help, and I hope he gets it, because obviously he is displaying issues and signs of derangement. I'm also interested to see how the Human Rights Tribunal rules. If the BC Human Rights Tribunal votes in favor of Jessica and awards her a compensation for this silly matter, I will lose almost all of my faith in the justice system, hands down. It's almost impossible to conceive of rational people thinking that Jessica is in the right here. In all honesty, Jessica should be forced to pay a fine for wasting everyone's time. So I'll keep you up to date on that situation and let you know what the verdict is when it comes out in 3 months. It's a long time, which is also ridiculous, but that's a complaint for another time. That's about it for today. Thanks for joining me on the Perri platform. If you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a review and follow me on Twitter at Perri Platform. I'll see you soon.